Hi everyone, Adam here. So today's topic is pain, soreness, delayed onset muscle soreness. What can I do about the soreness I get from exercise? Now, this video, I will admit, is going to be a little bit more conjectural in nature. I do not necessarily have research to back up all the points that I'm making. But I think that given the picture that we have already, given what I know, I think that this is a pretty accurate picture. Now, it's possible that I may be wrong. It's possible that other people know more about this than I do, and that's great. I would love to hear any criticism on that point. So, here's what we know about pain. First things first is that we used to believe in what we call the Cartesian model of pain, the very strict mind-body dualism. And basically, the Cartesian model of pain says that, say, some kind of stimulus, say you burn your hand. You burn your hand, the flame hits your hand, you have sensors, nerves that transmit that pain to your brain feels the pain, that's it. Now, the thing that we've come to realize is that that model is way too simple for us to actually, it just doesn't explain a lot of the phenomena that we see. Like phantom limb syndrome, where you experience pain in a limb that's gone. Pain syndromes, where you experience crap tons of pain all the time for no real reason. There's not any stimulus that's causing it, issues like that. So what is it that causes that pain? Well, what is becoming more and more popular now is what we call the biopsychosocial model of pain. I recommend that you Google that, research it, look it up. Painscience.com is a really good resource. Barrett Dorko is a really good resource. If you search his name, B-A-R-E-T-T, last name Dorko, D-O-R-K-O, he is a really good resource on that kind of thing as well. So, what does the biopsychosocial model of pain say? It says that there are three major root causes of pain. Biological factors, which say actual, pain stressors. That's the stuff like, burning your hand. Psychological causes, your psychological state. Things that are, going on with you at any given time. And lastly, social factors. Basically, the way that you're conditioned by your upbringing, by your society, to think about, feel about pain, and things like that. So, for example, say that you were raised in a household where, basically you hurt yourself, you cry a lot, you get a lot of attention for that. Then it's possible that, you later on in life, you learn to react to pain in the same way. Versus, say, a child who was raised in a situation where, you hurt yourself, you cry a lot, but, people just kind of, react very stoically to it. Maybe later on in life, same thing, you might have a very different experience than the first person. So what is all this, adding up together? Well, a lot of people misinterpret the biopsychosocial model of pain to say that it's all in your head. That basically, you burn your hand, but it's just all in your head. It has nothing to do with the fact that you burn your hand. Well, that's not true, really. It's kind of true on a very basic level, but it's not helpful as a statement. So, what is that to say? Essentially, the brain is what causes pain. Pain is an experience that, is caused by your brain. Essentially, you get burned, signals are sent to your brain, and then your brain decides what to do with those signals. It can say, okay, that hurts a lot, okay, that hurts very little. It creates pain as a way to tell you to, to withdraw your hand, not to repeat that stimulus. So, but it also has the ability to do really cool, interesting things. So I don't know if you've ever seen a really crappy movie, Major Pain, where, they've got this, super cool military guy, and he's like, oh, I got something that'll fix, the pain, you just got shot in war, your leg's bleeding, everything hurts, I got a way to fix that. And you go, okay, cool, and then he breaks your finger and says, you're not feeling your leg anymore, are you? You're feeling the finger. The thing is that your brain sort of picks what to focus on in any given situation. It looks at the situation and says, I need to feel pain now to get you away from that stimulus. Or if it's not that, if it realizes that it's not that big of an injury, it might just not do that at all. That's why, you have people that, like, they cut themselves, like you look at your arm and you go like, oh, I must have cut myself a while ago. I didn't feel it at all. That's because your brain, realized that cut was, not that important, and so it just, didn't send you any pain. It didn't, it didn't feel the need to pull you away from that situation. Didn't think you were going to repeat it. Didn't think it was serious enough to be an issue. So, your brain essentially serves as a modulator. It can dial that pain up or down based on your situation, based on the location that you're in. Now, that's not to say that again, that it's all in your head. Of course, it's not. When you hurt yourself, you're going to feel pain. That's a real stimulus. That's a real cause and effect thing there. It is really causing that, and certainly it exists for a reason. But at the same time, that knob in your head that turns things up and down can get a little, it can get a little, not tuned properly. It can certainly go wrong. It can cause things to go a little bit haywire. And that's where we see things, like pain syndromes, phantom limb syndrome, etc., where, there's not really any apparent stimulus that's causing our pain, but we are still experiencing pain all the same. So, that is our discussion of pain right now. That is our, that's one box right here. Pain. Now, another box right here is delayed onset muscle soreness, which is the soreness that we feel after a heavy workout, after a solid workout. What is that? Well, it used the old school, explanation was that it's, lactic acid buildup, and then that gets cleared away and, whatnot. Since then, studies have proven that while there is certainly a lot of, there certainly is lactic acid buildup when you're sore and, basically when you're exercising, when you're exerting yourself, but that's not what's actually causing or creating the soreness. The reality is that the soreness is, it's likely, again, we don't know specifically. The human body is a very fuzzy system. It could be a lot of different factors, working together that are causing your brain to say, okay, you need to, not use these. But it's probably not lactic acid. And best guess right now that we have is that it's just due to, actual physical trauma to the muscles. There are micro traumas to the muscle, and then, your brain says, okay, let's not use those, give them time to recover, and, there you go, there you are. Now, why is it that some, you can feel super massive delayed onset muscle soreness for some people, whereas other people might not get any at all? Well, that is where this box relates back to this box. That is where the whole, soreness relates back to pain. So what happens is, when you are trying something new, trying a stimulus, an exercise that you haven't tried in a long time or at all, ever, obviously there's a lot of pain. Your body's not used to it. There's trauma, there's tears in the muscle. Your brain needs, your brain says, okay, listen, you can't use those legs again because you just used them yesterday and you really beat them up, and so let's, protect those for a little bit so you don't exert yourself too much. Now, at the same time, as your body and your brain become more used to the exercise, you feel less and less soreness. This is why, typically after 2 or 3 weeks of training, most people get to a point where they don't feel very much soreness unless they do a very particularly heavy workout. They really push themselves a lot harder, or if they try a new exercise or a new way of training the same muscles that they haven't done before. Those are very easy ways to cause delayed onset muscle soreness, and that is why delayed onset muscle soreness is not a very good indicator of progress. Because if everything, if what made you sore was what made you better, then you would just constantly be switching off into new exercises, so you'd be constantly keeping yourself sore. And that sucks. No one wants to be sore all the time. Athletes hate being sore because it means they can't train anymore. So, so most athletes, people who seriously exercise, work to that point where they don't have to worry about it anymore because they're not getting very sore anymore because their body is used to the stimulus and they're slowly adding volume, they're adding work over time instead of just dropping big chunks on themselves, and as a result they're continually getting better and they're experiencing very little soreness. Now, there is another factor in soreness that again relates back to that pain box. The brain, how the brain has that dial that it can turn up and down as situation warrants. This part is highly conjectural. This part is just me, making very much guesswork. But here's the thing, there's known phenomena where stretching, where foam rolling, where massage, where, even warm-ups, lightly activating the muscle by just, doing some very light workout, like if your legs are sore, going for a light jog, or, maybe doing some very lightweight, leg exercises. That kind of stuff will actually cause your soreness to go away. And in my head, the way I think of that, and again, this is just me conjectural here. If your legs are sore, because they've been damaged a little bit from the previous workout, then, obviously your brain says, okay, let's rest those, let's let those recover, let's not, hurt them again. But if you start to use those legs again, you are telling your brain, listen, I need those. I need those right now. I need to use them. It's important. And I like to think of, for example, maybe you're trying to run away from a lion in the wild or something. That's a very far-fetched example for most of us. But, if your brain was keeping you from running as fast as you could to get away from that lion just because you ran away from a lion yesterday, then that's a very bad survival mechanism, right? Because you were basically, your brain was holding you back so you wouldn't hurt yourself, but it got you killed instead. So, what happens when you start running? Your brain says, okay, you probably need those legs for something. You probably need to be able to move without pain, without issue. So let's dial that back down. And then you can perform a lot better because you're warmed up, because you're less sore, because you're ready to go. Again, that part is very much conjecture, but that's how I like to think about it. It's held very true for me that, once you start warming up, you get much less sore. It also explains why people are very sore in the early morning when they first wake up. That is when you tend to be most sore. Why is that? That's because you've been immobilized for 8 hours or so. Not necessarily immobilized, but effectively not moving very much at all. And so you are the very opposite of warmed up. Everything is not warmed up at all. Your joints are not greased up. They are not ready to go. You are just coming back from a position of being very locked in. Very, unmoving. So, once you start moving in the morning, once you get up, you're like, oh man, this sucks, this hurts so much. But by lunchtime, you realize, you don't feel as sore. Maybe even just an hour or two later. And that's because, again, you've greased those joints, you've gotten moving, you are warming up for the day, as it were. So, that explains, sort of why you feel soreness. That explains sort of how soreness works. Obviously, it's not a perfect picture. Again, like I said, parts of it are sort of conjectural. I certainly made a pretty little story for myself about running away from a lion. Whether or not that is scientifically accurate, I couldn't exactly say. Again, any criticism welcome. But that is kind of a general picture of how soreness works. Any kind of warming up tends to take that away. Any kind of movement, and obviously the more intense, the more difficult that movement gets, the more that soreness is going to fall off. And that explains why people are often able to, if they have a little bit, not a ton of soreness, but a little bit of soreness, they can often go ahead and crush a workout, almost 100% of what they would be able to do if they were fully recovered, simply because the soreness goes away, they're ready to move again. So that is it for today. Bit longer than usual. Happens. As always, like, share, comment, tell me what you want to see in future videos. Talk to you guys next time. Have a good one.